I used to think that finding a decent man after 30 was either a fairy tale or a compromise. But when I met Alex, I honestly believed in fate. He was attentive, intelligent, calm, perfectly balanced in all the ways I had lacked in previous relationships. 6 months after we met, we moved in together, and 8 months later we got married. That's when I truly met his mother, Diana. Diana had been around before the wedding, but it was all surface level back then. "I'm so happy for you two. Emma, what a lovely smile you have," that kind of stuff. It felt fake, but I figured that was just her personality. Then came the wedding day, and everything shifted. The ceremony was small, about 35 guests, close friends and family. During our vows, I noticed Diana rolling her eyes. When I was reading my part, she actually stood up, coughed loudly, and left to use the bathroom. Later, I found out she told her friend, "She's reading like some actress. Must have wanted to be famous as a kid." Her friend later apologized to me for repeating it, but the damage was done. That was my first real glimpse of who Diana was. The first month of married life was peaceful. We lived in our own apartment, did our own thing. Then one day Alex told me his mom wanted to stay with us for a few days because she was having plumbing issues and couldn't get anyone to fix it until the following week. I wasn't thrilled, but I agreed. She arrived with 2 large suitcases, took over our bedroom. "Oh, my joints hurt too much for the couch," she said, and started acting like she owned the place. She rearranged our pots and pans, went through our fridge and tossed out what she called expired garbage. And the kicker? I came home from work one day to find that my work documents had been moved, and some were missing. "Oh, I was just tidying up your papers," she said like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You're a designer, right? Strange that your system is so chaotic." That was the first time I fought with Alex. I told him his mother had no business going through my things. He shrugged and said, "She's just trying to help. Don't take it to heart." That became the refrain of our marriage. Don't take it to heart. She commented on my makeup, my clothes, "Such a pretty girl. But those jeans make you look like a teenager from the 90s. My job, is that your actual job? Or just a hobby? Even my breakfast, you eat that every day? No wonder your metabolism's off." Her temporary stay turned into weekend visits, almost every weekend. And Alex was just happy to have her around. "She's lonely since Dad died," he'd say. But each visit got worse. One time, Alex and I had planned a romantic night at home, candles, wine, music, and she just showed up at 8 p.m. with a pie. "I figured you two weren't eating properly, so I brought something decent," she said, barging in. I was wearing a cocktail dress and she immediately commented, "So dressed up, it's just your husband. Who are you trying to impress?" I started noticing that Alex wouldn't say anything in my defense anymore. Sometimes he even agreed with her. And whenever I tried to talk about it, he'd say I was overreacting. One time she showed up with a box of Alex's old stuff, childhood photos, school medals, even a stuffed bear, and started placing them all over our apartment. "It's who he is," she said to me. "I hope you're not trying to erase his past." I didn't say anything, but when she left, I put everything in storage. Alex got furious. "She's right. You are trying to change me." That's when something cracked in our marriage. He became more distant. She became more aggressive. She started making comments about us not having kids. "You're not getting any younger," she'd say. "When are you planning to give Alex a real family?" When I told her I was focusing on a big project, she gave me the fakest smile and said, "Oh, career. Well, I just hope he finds someone who wants the same things as he does." I locked myself in the bathroom to keep from screaming. And from there, I heard her talking to Alex. "You deserve better. Can't you see how she's dragging you down?" I waited, hoping to hear him say something like, "Mom, that's enough." But there was silence. And that silence was worse than anything she could have said. When I came out, she was drinking tea in our kitchen. Alex was scrolling on his phone. "Sorry," he mumbled, without even looking at me. But the worst was the day I got promoted. I had spent months working on a major campaign and was finally named creative director. I was so excited. I brought home a bottle of champagne, ready to celebrate with Alex. But guess who opened the door? Diana. "We were just talking about you," she said, wearing that same cold smile. "Alex is worried. He says you've been distant lately. And really, can you even raise a family with that kind of workload?" Alex came out of the kitchen, looked at me, and shrugged. "We were just talking. Don't make it a thing." I didn't make it a thing. I went to our bedroom, closed the door, and cried. The next morning, she left me a note. "A woman should be a support, not a competitor." Think about that. Thanksgiving had never meant much to me before I got married. Growing up, it was just an excuse for awkward family dinners where my parents made forced conversation and my Uncle Greg drank too much and started talking politics. But Alex? Alex was different. He loved Thanksgiving. He used to talk about how his mom made the perfect stuffing and how their family traditions were sacred. So naturally, when we bought the house, an $800,000 colonial with a huge open-plan kitchen and more space than 2 people needed, I offered to host Thanksgiving that year. I wanted everything to be perfect. I researched for weeks, planned a full spread from scratch. Turkey brined in buttermilk and herbs. Sweet potato casserole with candied pecans. Homemade sourdough stuffing. Cranberry sauce with orange zest. I even made a pumpkin pie from scratch. Rolled out the crust by hand, blind baked it, the whole thing. I cleaned the house from top to bottom. Polished the silverware his mom had gifted us, which she noted at the time might be a little too elegant for our everyday needs, and even bought matching napkin rings. By noon, everything was nearly done. Alex's brother Jared and his girlfriend Camila were the first to arrive. Jared, corporate lawyer, slick hair, always texting, barely looked up when I greeted him. Camila, at least, smiled and brought a bottle of wine. They sat in the living room sipping cocktails while I moved like a madwoman in the kitchen. Then came Alex's Aunt Beth and her second husband Gordon, who brought their twin teenage sons, Wyatt and Landon, both of whom immediately asked for the Wi-Fi password and vanished into the guest room to play video games. Diana arrived last, wearing pearls, a pale beige coat that screamed money, and that signature look of faint disappointment. She hugged Alex first, then gave me a limp one-arm hug that didn't even last a full second. "Oh, you went with sweet potatoes instead of yams," she said, peering over my shoulder before even removing her coat. "Interesting choice. I knew better than to take the bait. They're local. Farmer's market had great ones this week." She sniffed. "Well, not everyone can handle the real thing, I suppose." I bit my lip. This was how it always started, with something small, a comment so veiled you could almost convince yourself it wasn't meant to hurt. But I knew better. I'd been living in this war zone for too long to not recognize the opening volley. As the guests sat down to eat, I could feel the tension creep in around the edges. Diana took the seat at the head of the table, even though Alex was supposed to carve the turkey. She cleared her throat theatrically when he sat beside me, and not her. I ignored it. Everything looked perfect. The turkey was golden, the side dishes colorful, the wine glasses gleamed. For one brief moment, I let myself believe it might all go smoothly. Then Diana took a bite. She didn't say anything at first. Just chewed, swallowed, picked up her water, and took a long sip. "Well," she said, setting down her glass. "This is bold." Everyone paused. Jared looked up from his plate. Camila glanced at me apologetically. Beth tried to change the subject by asking Gordon about his new business venture, but it was too late. Diana had the floor. "I suppose not everyone is meant to cook traditional meals. This cranberry sauce tastes like it came from a candle store. And the stuffing is quite wet. Maybe next year I'll bring some of my old recipes." I smiled calmly. I wanted to try something different. I thought the orange zest added brightness. "And the stuffing is moist because it was baked covered, like many traditional recipes call for." She smirked. "Well, I'm sure your followers on Instagram will love it." "Oh, wait, you're not really an influencer, are you?" "Just a graphic designer." That was the jab. It was always the same. Dig at my job. Diminish me in front of others. I glanced at Alex. He was focused on his plate, chewing slowly. I waited. Nothing. Camila tried to cut in. "Actually, I think this is amazing. The pie looks like something out of Bon Appetit." Diana turned to her. "How sweet of you to say. Young people always pretend to like things." I took a sip of wine calmly, my heart racing but my face neutral. I knew I had to hold it together. But something inside me snapped. I kept my head down for too long. I set my glass down and looked Diana in the eyes. "Diana," I said evenly, "I know you don't like me. That's been clear since the beginning. But it's Thanksgiving. Everyone is trying to enjoy themselves. If the food isn't to your taste, you're free to make something else. Or eat nothing at all. What you're not free to do is insult me in my home." The room went dead silent. Camila's mouth dropped open. Jared froze with his fork halfway to his mouth. Beth looked from me to Diana like someone watching a train derail in slow motion. Diana stared at me like I'd slapped her. "I have never," she began, her voice already trembling, "been spoken to like that. In my entire life. After everything I've done for you." "What exactly have you done for me?" I asked. My voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp. "Made me feel small? Belittled my work? Undermined my marriage? I've let it slide for 2 years. I've stayed quiet out of respect. But you've mistaken my silence for weakness." Her lip quivered. She stood up slowly. You ungrateful little girl. You think you're better than this family." Alex stood up suddenly. "Emma, that's enough." I turned to him. "Is it? Because she just spent 20 minutes insulting the food I made for your entire family in our home." He wouldn't look at me. "You embarrassed her." I blinked. "Are you serious right now?" Then Diana started crying. Not sniffling. Sobbing. She covered her face with both hands and said, "I just wanted a nice family dinner." Alex went to her instantly, wrapped his arms around her like she was the victim in all this. And then he looked at me with something cold and hard in his eyes I'd never seen before. "I think you should go," he said. I felt like I'd been slapped. "You're kicking me out of our house? You clearly need space to calm down," he said. "You've upset everyone." "Everyone?" Jared was still eating. Camila was frozen in shock. Wyatt and Landon hadn't even left the guest room. The only person who was upset was Diana, and only because, for once, I didn't let her win. I looked at Alex, the man I had married, the man who used to make me tea when I worked late, who promised we'd be a team. Now standing beside his mother, his loyalty clear. "Fine," I said, my voice flat. I walked to the hall closet, took my coat, grabbed my bag. Nobody said a word. I didn't even cry. Not until I got into the car and drove away, staring out at the house I had thought was our home, wondering how the hell I'd ended up the villain in my own story. When I pulled into Jessica's driveway that night, I still hadn't cried. I'd driven in silence for over an hour, ignoring the buzzing of my phone in the cup holder. The notifications came like little bursts of static. Alex, 3 missed calls. Alex, we need to talk. Diana, I'm sorry if you were hurt. And then, let's be adults about this. Jessica opened the door before I even knocked. She must have been watching from the window. I didn't say anything. She didn't either. She just wrapped her arms around me and whispered, I've got you. And that was the moment the tears finally came. We'd been friends since college. Roommates in a freezing walk-up in Boston with creaky floors and unreliable plumbing. She was now a freelance journalist, living in a 2-bedroom apartment with her pug, Winston, who waddled up to me and licked my shin as I sobbed into her shoulder. I stayed in her guest room. That night, she brought me herbal tea, a soft hoodie, and a spare phone charger and said, you don't have to talk until you're ready. But I wanted to. I needed to get it out of me. So I told her everything. From the wedding day eye roll to the not good enough jabs to the Thanksgiving explosion. Jessica didn't interrupt once, but I saw her expression darken the longer I spoke. When I finished, she said, she's not just toxic. That woman's a master manipulator. And I don't like the way Alex acts like her shadow. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready to face what I already knew. The next morning, I woke up to a flurry of texts. First from Alex. I overreacted. I was trying to calm the situation. Can we meet? Please don't give up on us over one bad night. Then Diana. I'm sorry you felt hurt. I was emotional. Holidays are hard for me. Maybe we should all go to dinner. Just us girls. Then my mom. Emma. Talk to Alex. Don't throw your marriage away over pride. It's not too late. And then my older sister, Sarah. Mom's freaking out. She says you just stormed out. You can't just leave your husband. That's not how it works. I felt like I was drowning in other people's expectations. Jessica saw me staring at the screen and gently took my phone. Want me to throw this in the freezer for you? I laughed bitterly. If only that would make them disappear. Over the next few days, the messages kept coming. Alex sent photos of our dog Coco lying on my side of the bed, of a new dinner he'd made, your favorite risotto, even a picture of the necklace he'd once given me, still here waiting. Diana's tone switched from apology to guilt trip. I'm devastated that my emotions pushed you away. I never meant to hurt you. But I'm also human. Can't we both admit we made mistakes? You're still part of this family, whether you like it or not. It was that last one that made me clench my fists. Then my father called. Emma honey, he said with that practiced patience that always masked irritation. Your mother is worried sick. This is not how we raised you. You don't just abandon your home because of a little tension with your in-laws. You talk it out. You compromise. I said nothing. He went on. A marriage is sacred. Divorce is not an option. Don't destroy everything over a bruised ego. That phrase, destroy everything, sat in my chest like a weight. Jessica told me I didn't owe anyone an explanation. But I still felt like I was the villain in someone else's narrative. Then something happened I didn't expect. My cousin Natalie called. Natalie was the kind of person who floated in and out of family events, always dressed like she'd just come from a gallery opening, sharp-tongued and brutally observant. We'd always gotten along, but never been close. She started with, hey, I heard about Thanksgiving. I just want to say, I believe you. I blinked. What? She sighed. Diana. She did the same thing to me. Years ago. With Jason. Jason. Her ex. The one she left after 2 years of engagement and a mysterious family rift that no one ever explained. She sabotaged it, Natalie said. Same thing. Passive-aggressive remarks. Acting like I was stealing him. I remember once she told Jason in front of me, some women just see men like you as a step up. Be careful, darling. My stomach turned. She got into his head. Convinced him I wasn't supportive enough. That I was competitive, instead of loving. I finally walked away when she told me that a real woman doesn't need ambition if she has a good man. I told her I got a version of that note. Handwritten. On my pillow. She's done this to at least 2 other women in the family, Natalie continued. Beth's ex-husband? She tore him apart until he left. Said he was too low class for the family name. And Alex, he's been her golden boy since birth. I always said he'd end up with someone she could control. That last sentence gutted me. Was that how people saw me? As someone she could control? Natalie must have sensed the silence. Listen, she said. You're not crazy. And you're not selfish. You just finally stood up to a woman who's used to everyone crawling for her approval. When we hung up, I sat in Jessica's kitchen for a long time, staring at the wall. Later that evening, I checked Instagram, not out of vanity, but curiosity. Diana had posted a filtered photo of her and Alex at a restaurant. Captioned, Mother and son time. Some people may leave, but real love remains. I actually laughed out loud. It was so transparent I felt embarrassed for her. Then came an email from Alex. Longer. Rambling. I don't know what happened to us. You used to be so warm. So gentle. Ever since you got that promotion, it's like you're always trying to prove something. I just want my wife back. I don't want this version of you. The one who snaps, who lashes out. We can fix this. But only if you stop seeing everyone as the enemy. I stared at the screen. My hands shook. He'd reduced everything to my reaction. Not his mother's behavior. Not his silence. Not his betrayal. My version. Jessica walked in, saw my face, and took the laptop away. You're not going back, are you? She asked quietly. I didn't answer. But But in my mind, I knew. There was no going back. Only forward. It had been just over 3 weeks since Thanksgiving. Since I'd been kicked out of my own house. Since I'd gone from wife to outsider in a matter of minutes. I was still staying with Jessica, though I tried to stay out of her way. I cooked, walked Winston, even helped her edit a draft of a long-form article she was pitching to The Atlantic. I kept myself busy, but I couldn't pretend this was my life. This was a pit stop, not a destination. My inbox was full of Alex's apologies. Not daily anymore, but always right when I started to feel calm. It was like he could sense it. The emotional equivalent of pulling the rug out just as you start to balance. Then came the voicemail that finally made me pick up the phone. It was simple, flat, no background noise. Just his voice. Emma, I miss you. I want to talk. No pressure. But I'm asking for one more conversation. Just you and me. I didn't know why, but something in the way he said it made me feel like maybe he was finally ready to hear me. So I agreed to meet. We chose neutral ground. A quiet corner booth at Giallo, a small Italian place we used to love. I arrived early, sat at the booth with my coat still on, and watched as he walked in. He looked thinner. More tired. But still composed. Still Alex. He sat across from me, gave a tired smile and said, Hi. Hi. We didn't even order food. We just talked. He opened with a half-hearted apology. Thanksgiving was a mess. I should have handled it better. I panicked. I nodded. You didn't panic. You chose her. You always do. He flinched. That's not fair. It's the truth. We went back and forth like that, him saying he wanted to make things right, me asking how, him insisting he could figure it out, me saying that wasn't good enough. Finally, I laid it out. I will come back. But only under 2 conditions, I said, voice steady. You set boundaries with your mother. Clear, firm boundaries. And you come to therapy with me. His face froze. Like someone had switched off a light inside him. You mean like couples therapy? He asked. Yes. With a licensed therapist. Weekly. I already found someone. He laughed. It wasn't a joyful laugh. It was short, almost disgusted. You want me to go to therapy because you and my mom don't get along? I kept my voice calm. Because you let your mother abuse me. And you enabled it. Because there are deep problems here, and we need help. And if you want me back, this is the only way. He shook his head, looked around the restaurant like he wanted to escape. I'm not doing that, Emma. I'm not letting some stranger tell me I need to cut off my mother. No one's asking you to cut her off. I'm asking you to set limits. She can't insult me in our home. She can't manipulate you. You have to make it clear that our marriage comes first. He stared at me for a long time. I could see the gears turning. And then he said the thing that told me everything I needed to know. She's my mother. She's not going anywhere. Silence fell between us. Then I said, okay. Then neither am I. That was the first time I saw fear in his eyes. You're saying that's it? Divorce? Just like that. No, I said, rising from the table. I gave you a chance. You chose not to take it. I left him sitting there alone, in the booth we used to share every Friday night. I didn't cry. I didn't look back. That night, Jessica poured me a glass of wine and said, I don't know how you stayed with him that long. I didn't answer. Because I did know. I had stayed because I believed love could outweigh manipulation. I had stayed because I thought he was on my side. The next morning, the fallout began. I woke up to texts from my mother. You are being stubborn. Therapy? What for? Just fix it together. And from Sarah. He's your husband. This is marriage. Not everything is easy. Then one from Diana, like poison in a Tiffany box. You're punishing him because he loves his mother? You always were a little self-absorbed. And then, shockingly, from Jared. Yes, Jared, the phone-glued lawyer brother, who never seemed to care about anything not tied to a court date or a round of golf. Hey, I heard what's going on. Just letting you know I see it. What she does. She did it to my ex too. Mom's never going to change. You're smart to walk. That message hit me harder than anything. Because for the first time, someone from their side acknowledged the truth. I had Natalie. Now Jared. It wasn't just in my head. The same day, I received a delivery at Jessica's door. A manila envelope. No note. Inside, a typed letter from Alex. I don't want a divorce. I still love you. But I won't go to therapy. I don't believe in it. I think we can work through this ourselves, if you just let go of your anger. At the bottom, his signature. And 2 blank lines underneath. One with my name, one for a witness. I realized, as my hands shook, what this was. A pre-divorce agreement. Informal. No legal weight. Just a manipulative olive branch disguised as paperwork. A way to guilt me into backing down. Jessica, reading over my shoulder, muttered, unbelievable. He's weaponizing compromise. I placed the letter in the shredder. That night, Natalie came over. We sat on the balcony with blankets wrapped around our shoulders and a bottle of bourbon between us. She said, they'll never understand. People like Diana don't lose. They just make everyone else feel like they're breaking the family. Then let it break, I said. She clinked her glass against mine. To breaking the right things. Filing the divorce papers was easier than I expected. Not emotionally, that part was a wreck. But practically, it was just 3 signatures at the county clerk's office, 2 notarized documents, and a filing fee of $435. I went with Jessica for moral support. She brought a vanilla latte and a pen with glitter in it, like it was supposed to be cute, but I think it was her quiet way of reminding me this was my choice, and it was worth celebrating. The lady at the clerk's desk didn't even look up when I slid the papers across. I wanted to scream. This is the end of my marriage, but she just stapled the forms and said, "You'll receive a court date by mail." Just like that. 11 years of knowing someone. 3.5 years of marriage. Reduced to paperwork. That night I told Alex. Not with a dramatic speech or tears, I just sent him a text. "The papers have been filed. You'll receive notice soon. Please don't contact me again." The first text came 20 minutes later. "Emma, please, don't do this." Then the phone rang. I didn't answer. Then again. And again. By midnight, I'd gotten 9 missed calls and a voicemail I still haven't listened to. By morning, Diana had joined in. "I can't believe you're destroying this family. What would your grandmother say? You've poisoned Alex. You want to ruin him because you're jealous of our bond. Then, you think anyone else is going to love someone like you?" That one hit different. Not because I believed it, but because it sounded so desperate. It wasn't about keeping the marriage. It was about control. I didn't respond. I blocked her number. Then Alex's. Then every burner number that started showing up with local area codes, ones I didn't recognize but came with the same frantic energy. One night, around 8 p.m., I came out of my building after work and found Alex leaning against my car. I stopped 10 feet away. "Leave," I said flatly. He stood up straighter, hands out like he was calming a wild animal. "Just talk to me. Please. I don't understand. You're blowing everything up." "You do understand," I said. "You just don't like the consequences." He stepped closer. "I love you. You love having someone you can silence." His face twisted. "This isn't you, Emma. You've changed." "No," I said. "You just never saw me clearly." He looked like he wanted to cry. "I didn't come here to fight." "Then don't. Just go." He didn't. Not right away. I had to walk around him, unlock the car, and drive off. He just stood there in the mirror as I pulled away. The next day, I told my manager, Leah, about everything. She didn't even blink. "You want security to walk you to your car from now on?" she asked. "Yes." "Done." Then she added, "And if he shows up again, call the police. We'll back you." I didn't know how badly I needed to hear someone say that. Later that week, Diana escalated. She emailed me from a new address, Diana_truthvoice@outlook.com. I guess the name was supposed to scare me. It made me laugh. Inside was a long rambling letter. Half guilt, half warning. "You don't understand the damage you're doing. People are talking. Your reputation won't survive this. Alex is already unraveling. He hasn't eaten in days. You promised forever." I blocked the email too. Then she started calling my office. The receptionist, Amanda, told me she called 6 times in one day. On the 6th, she asked for Emma Cooper, the divorce witch. Amanda said, "Should I start hanging up on her?" "Yes," I told her. "Or transfer her straight to Satan." The final straw was when Diana sent a certified letter to my parents. My mom called in a panic. "What the hell is going on?" I asked her to read it. It was 3 pages long, printed on monogrammed stationery. A list of all my supposed sins. Quotes from text messages Diana had screenshotted out of context. A claim that I was mentally unstable. That I'd been drinking excessively, that I screamed at her violently in front of children, and that I was planning to bankrupt Alex in the divorce. She ended the letter with, "Emma needs help. If her own mother won't intervene, we all suffer." That's when I snapped. I drove straight to my storage unit, opened the folder I'd labeled insurance but had secretly been using for months, full of screenshots, voice memos, and printed messages. Every awful thing she ever said. The birthday where she called me a breeder with delusions of talent. The time she told Alex he should just get her pregnant, then she'll calm down. The video of her accidentally walking into our bedroom while I was changing, and not leaving. I had it all. I forwarded the best 10 pieces to my group chat, the table girls, me, Jessica, her sister Leah, not to be confused with my manager, our mutual friend Priya, and Serena, who we'd all gone to grad school with. No intro, just, "This is what I've been dealing with." Reactions came fast. Leah, "Holy hell. She said that to your face?" Asterisk. Priya, "Why didn't you tell us sooner? You could have burned her publicly." Serena, "Alex let this happen? Jesus Christ." Jessica, of course, didn't say, "I told you so." She just wrote, "I'm proud of you." Finally showing the receipts. Then something surprising happened. People started picking sides, and they picked mine. Camila, Jared's girlfriend, texted me privately. "I always thought she was cold to you. I didn't know it was this bad. I'm so sorry. Jared feels awful." Even Beth, Alex's aunt, emailed me. "I've known for years what Diana's like. She did the same to me in '98. I stood by Alex because I thought he'd break the cycle. I was wrong. I hadn't expected it. I thought if I told the truth, people would see me as petty, vindictive. But all it took was showing them what I'd survived. And they believed me." The final moment of clarity came at a family brunch Jessica insisted I attend. I almost didn't go, but I was so exhausted from hiding. It was hosted at her sister Leah's house. Leah's husband, Marcus, pulled me aside halfway through and said, "You know, I used to envy Alex. I thought he had the perfect life, the perfect wife. But now I realize you were the perfect part. I smiled, but I didn't respond. I just sat back down at the table, surrounded by people who knew the truth. Not my truth, the truth. Signing the lease felt surreal. A one-bedroom corner unit on the 12th floor of a high-rise in Back Bay, $3,000 a month with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the Charles River. It was more than I'd ever spent on rent in my life, but I needed it. I needed a space that was mine, entirely mine, with no memories of slammed doors, cold silences, or mother-in-law drop-ins disguised as emergencies. The realtor, a guy named Elliot with sleeve tattoos and a dad-like sense of humor, handed me the keys and said, "Welcome to your next chapter. Try not to burn the place down." I laughed, thanked him, and the moment the door shut behind me, I dropped everything and lay flat on the hardwood floor. It was empty, echoing, and smelled like new paint, but it was mine. I bought a sofa I actually liked. Not beige. A deep emerald velvet one with brass legs. I bought art from local galleries. I bought ceramic mugs that didn't match, just because I wanted variety. Every single thing I brought into the apartment was chosen by me. And for the first time in years, I wasn't scared of my own preferences. I started therapy the same week I moved in. My therapist, Maya, was in her early 40s, wore black blazers and sneakers, and didn't smile unless she meant it. On our first session, she let me talk for 40 minutes straight before asking anything. When she finally did, it was one question. How long did you convince yourself silence meant peace? That one sentence unraveled me. Week by week, I unpacked things I hadn't even realized I'd buried. My need for approval. How I'd learned to minimize my needs so people wouldn't call me dramatic. The way I apologized before I even spoke. Maya didn't let me gloss over anything. One week she asked, "What do you call someone who sees abuse and does nothing?" I hesitated. "A bystander?" She nodded. "That's Alex." It wasn't about demonizing him. It was about putting names to the patterns I'd accepted as normal. Work also picked up. I'd taken a step back during the divorce, but when I returned, something shifted. My boss Leah, not Jessica's sister, the other Leah, had kept my position open and said, "You ready to stop playing small?" Within 3 months, I was leading a rebrand for a tech startup that would later get featured in Fast Company. I pitched bold ideas and didn't stutter when questioned. I no longer stayed quiet in meetings. I didn't defer. If someone talked over me, I talked louder. One afternoon, after a pitch meeting, a junior designer named Holly pulled me aside. "You're kind of terrifying now," she said, laughing. I raised an eyebrow. "In a good way?" "The best way," she grinned. That same week, I reconnected with friends I'd drifted from. Not intentionally, just slowly over time, as Alex's needs and Diana's intrusions had pulled me inward. But now, I showed up. Priya invited me to her rooftop birthday party, and I danced barefoot until 2 a.m. Serena called me after her breakup, and we watched horror movies in my apartment while eating Thai takeout. Jessica and I had our first friend trip in years, just a weekend in Vermont, but it felt like breathing clean air for the first time. And then, 6 months after my divorce was filed, I met someone new. His name was Caleb. We met at a design workshop where I was giving a talk about storytelling through visuals. He was in the back row, in a black hoodie, taking furious notes. After the session, he came up to me and said, "You speak like you've been silent before." I blinked. That's not a compliment most people would give. He smiled. "It is if you know what it means." We got coffee the next day. Talked for 3 hours. No games. No pretense. He was a UX consultant who worked remotely, had been divorced 4 years ago, and had an 8-year-old daughter, Leah. Yes, another Leah. Apparently they followed me. I expected baggage. I didn't expect balance. He asked questions without making assumptions. He didn't flinch when I said, "My last relationship ended because I refused to let my husband's mother run my life." He said, "Good." We took it slow. I met his daughter after 2 months. She was hilarious, obsessed with penguins, and immediately asked if I could braid her hair like Elsa. 3 months in, his mother, Linda, came to visit from Portland. I prepared myself for anything. But when we had dinner and Linda offered me second helpings of lasagna, she said, "You're good for him. I can tell. He's lighter around you." Later, I asked Caleb what he would have done if she had disapproved. He shrugged. "Loved her from a distance. Protected you from her. Family doesn't mean permission to hurt someone." It was such a simple answer. But it was everything. There were bumps, of course. I had nightmares some nights, of Diana showing up at my door again, of Alex trying to guilt me into going back. I'd wake up sweating, shaking, and Caleb would just hold me and say, "You're safe." The truth is, I'd spent years being gaslit into believing that asking for basic respect was unreasonable. That compromise meant self-erasure. That boundaries were cruelty. Now I was rebuilding. I had an apartment that looked like me. A job where I was heard. Friends who reminded me who I'd always been. A therapist who refused to let me lie to myself. And a partner who never made me feel like I was too much for expecting peace. A year and a half after filing for divorce, I received a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A real, physical envelope, forwarded from my old address, yellowed slightly at the corners. The return address had no name, just a P.O. box outside of Worcester. Inside was a single page. No greeting. Just this. "I should have chosen you. I see that now. Everything's gone. The house. The job. I'm not asking for anything. Just needed to say it." No signature, but it didn't need one. I knew Alex's handwriting by heart, neat, all caps, the E's flat and square, like a blueprint. I stared at the paper for a while, feeling nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Not even satisfaction. Just distance. Like looking through museum glass at a relic of someone else's disaster. I didn't write back. By then I had heard pieces. Enough to stitch together the rest. A few months after the divorce was finalized, Alex moved back into Diana's house in Newton, the same 5-bedroom colonial with cream siding and stone lions flanking the walkway. He told people it was temporary. It wasn't. At first, he tried to act like everything was fine. Posted selfies with Coco, the dog we'd gotten together. Captioned them with new beginnings and family is forever. But things crumbled faster than he could fake. He lost his job at the commercial architecture firm after missing deadlines. Rumors said he was drinking on site. Others said he just stopped showing up. The company was small. People talked. One of the interns, a friend of my designer Holly, said he came in one day reeking of whiskey at 10 a.m. Another time he cursed out a client over email. He burned bridges one by one. Diana, of course, tried to hold it all together. She made posts about mental health stigma and loving people through the darkness, but everyone could tell it wasn't sympathy, it was damage control. Natalie, my cousin who had been through her own war with Diana, sent me screenshots of a community Facebook group post. Diana had written a long, tearful essay about how her son had been manipulated by a cold, selfish woman who left him in ruins. The comments under it were brutal. Gina T. Maybe he wouldn't be in ruins if you stopped controlling his life. Marta B. Oh please. This family has a pattern. You did the same thing to Beth's ex. It was the first time I saw her publicly challenged. And she deleted the post within a day. Still, Alex didn't get help. He spiraled. He sold the BMW. Started borrowing money from friends. One of them, Vince, called Jessica looking for me. She told him she hadn't seen me in months. Why'd he call you? I asked. Because no one else is answering him anymore. The last update came from Camila. She and Jared had split up, unrelated apparently, and she bumped into Alex outside a gas station. He looked rough, she said. Like, not just tired. Like his skin forgot what sunlight was. He tried to flirt with me. Then asked if I had $40. He'd become a shadow. Meanwhile, I was alive in a way I hadn't been in years. I just finished a huge campaign for a nonprofit that helped survivors of coercive control. It was the most personal project I'd ever done. I put real stories into the visuals. I even asked Maya, my therapist, if she thought it was okay to use mine. She said, yes, but only if the story ends with your strength, not your pain. So I made sure it did. I'd moved into a new place, a loft in Fort Point. Exposed brick, huge windows, $3,000 a month again. But this time it felt like a reward, not a reset. Caleb and I weren't living together by choice. We both liked our independence. We both had scars. We respected the space. He never once asked why I kept a lockbox of printed messages under my bed. Never questioned my quiet mornings or my habit of checking the peephole before opening the door. He just let me be. One night, we went to dinner with some friends of his, a couple named Nate and Rosa, and the conversation turned to family. Rosa asked if I was close with mine. I said, some of them. Not all. She smiled. Healthy boundaries. Love it. Caleb took my hand under the table. It was nothing big. Just quiet support. But it meant everything. A few weeks later, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in almost 2 years, Beth. Alex's aunt. The one who tried to stay neutral for so long. It was at a farmer's market in Cambridge. She was buying honey. I was buying apples. We saw each other. She froze. I nodded politely, expecting her to walk away. Instead, she approached. I heard about Alex, she said. I'm sorry. I said, you don't need to apologize. No, she replied. But I want to. For not saying anything sooner. For letting her get away with it. I looked at her. Really looked. She seemed older. Not in a bad way, just tired. Like someone who had finally put down a heavy burden. She controls people, I said. She did, Beth corrected. Not anymore. I nodded. Good. We didn't say anything else. Just parted ways quietly. I didn't cry. I didn't need to. My days are different now. I wake up to silence. Not cold silence. Peaceful silence. I make coffee in my own kitchen. I eat breakfast barefoot. Listening to the playlist I actually like, no judgment. No comments about sugar or carbs or grown women needing structure. I go to work where my ideas are respected. I walk through my front door and know no one will be waiting to sabotage my happiness. I go to therapy twice a month now. Maintenance, not crisis. Maya once asked, what's the difference between your old life and this one? I told her, before I existed. Now I live. She smiled. Caleb and I went to Italy for my birthday. He bought me a ring, not that kind of ring. Just one I pointed out in a shop window in Florence. I hadn't even remembered doing it. But he had. I still keep the old screenshots. Not out of anger. Just as proof. For myself. For days when I start to wonder if I imagined it all. I didn't. He stayed. She stayed. But I left. And I will never, ever return to a life where I have to beg to be respected.